Hello, my name is Minzy. This is a funeral tie, and we're here to talk about England 2, Panama nil. I told you in my last fucking video, yeah. All will be forgiven. All will be forgiven if we beat Panama 2-0. We finished group winners, and that's the end of it. Because all the hard work was done against Croatia. You're allowed to fuck up somewhere in the group stages. So long as you win your next one, that's all you need to do. That's all you need to fucking do. That's what we've done. 2 wins out of 3 in the group stages, unbeaten. We finish on 7 points. We are through to the last 32 of the competition. So many nations that have made it. There's a lot of love that I have for a lot of nations that have made it through to the knockouts, or at least Cape Verde, who you know what, like I said, adulations to you guys. There's a lot of countries that I missed out that I do feel very sorry for. We'll get onto that in a minute, but we're through. We won 2-0. It was not the best of games again. Cape Verde. Cape Verde, who we played? We're playing Panama, for Christ's sakes. Panama. The last time we played them was in the 2018 World Cup. And there's a lot of memories there because obviously we battered them 6-1 up in Russia. But more importantly, my friend Kunal was shown on the live big screens. Him just going and waving that big flag of his. I couldn't believe it when I saw him live on national television. I was like, what the fuck, man? You're being shown on the TV screen, you legend. And, well, we're off and playing them again in this World Cup. Unfortunately for them, it was sort of like a little bit of a dead rubber. They were out. They lost to Croatia. They lost to Ghana. It meant that, unfortunately, whatever happened, whether they beat England or not, they were still going out because it's the old head-to-head record. And they would have finished on 3 points, the same as Croatia. But unfortunately, the head-to-head was that Croatia beat Panama, so Panama are out. Regardless, but AO, they wanted to give their fans a little bit of a send off. You know, there's a lot of Panamanian, if you can call them that, citizens expating across to the United States. So, you know, it almost was like a home game for them. And you know what? They did their best. They did their best against a England team that wasn't exactly inspirational either. They tried to adopt the low block against Ghana, but it wasn't meant to be for them, but it was a good outing. And they weren't disgraced like last time by England when they lost 6-1. You know, they were actually quite respectable against Ghana, Croatia with 1-0 losses and this 2-0 loss against England. So they were a little bit better this time in the World Cup. And, you know, kudos to them. Kudos to them. Onto the game itself. They actually need they tried to go 1-0 up in the first few seconds. Rodriguez with a shot in anger from distance. It was on target, but thankfully straight at the keeper. To be fair, the first half was a little bit cagey, maybe slightly even. Rashford on the left. He makes a little shot at the near post from distance, and it was, I wouldn't say comfortably saved by Mosquera, but he tips it around for a corner. And then Harvey to Rodriguez, passes it on to Jose Luis Rodriguez. And again, I don't know, a lot of shots were being aimed at the near post for some reason. Tried to catch Pickford at his near post, and he saved smartly as well. Then you had Rashford who cushions it and lays it off to O'Reilly with a long ball. How can he cushion a long ball? Anyway, he sends a long ball over to Riley, which was saved by Mosquera. Henderson on the right. He crosses it on to Rashford and he heads over the bar. There was a little bit of good interchange play before that. Was it a penalty for Saka into the penalty box just before that? I don't think so. I think he tripped over his own foot. And then they had a free kick towards the end of the first half. Rashford, he tries to bend it around the wall. Just went past the post. Not quite. It was a cagey sort of first half. Well, England didn't quite assert their authority. They didn't assert their authority the whole game, but I don't give a shit. Like I said, the only thing that matters is just win at any cost. Into the second half, Rashford onto the left. He crosses it onto Kane. There was almost a comical own goal because it was a right mix-up. Escobar tries to side the clearance out of the box in a panic. It hits Andrade and it just loops over the bar. Then Rashford, he nicks it off Murillo. He charges all the way down the left, and again he tries to catch the keeper at his near post, but he shoots wide. Then there was a hairy moment where there was a shot from a Panama player which we thought was actually going in. Certainly from where I was looking at, it looked like it was bending in. You had Henderson clumsily losing the ball out to Gutierrez, a good challenge, and he passes it on to Jose Luis Rodriguez. He shoots from distance. I thought it was bending to the top right-hand corner. Thankfully, it went just wide. Then you had Rodgers, who, with a flick on, gets it into Bellingham. He passes into Kane, just slightly right to the centre of the goal. He tries to go into the top left-hand corner. Instead, he bunts it straight at the keeper, and Mosquera with a wonderful save. We were thinking where the goal's going to come from. In the end, it was a typical set piece, almost Arsenal-esque. Would be proud of this one. We get a corner on the left. Saka puts it in. Bellingham stabs it in. Fantastic. That was 1-0 on the 60th minute, and 7 minutes later we make the game safe with Bellingham on the left. He crosses, and Kane puts it into the roof of the net to make it 2-0 game safe. Then we had a comical few moments towards the end of the game where Rodgers, he slips it into Madueke, and good striker would score, but I know Madueke, I had lack of belief that he would score. I've seen him in his Chelsea days, I've seen him in his Arsenal days. He didn't have belief in the lad, sadly. Funny enough, Madueke scores the complicated ones. He doesn't finish the simple ones. Unfortunately, that was a simple one. You just had to lift it over the keeper and see he bunts it straight at him. And then Panama go off the other end and score. Martinez to Andrade. He then gets it onto Farjado. Sorry for mispronouncing your name. And he actually puts it into the back of the net, into the top right-hand corner. It was a wonderful finish. And then it was ruled out for offside. And then I looked at the initial replays and I went, fuck, he looks on to me. He actually genuinely looks on. It should stand. But unfortunately, Farjado's knees were offside. You know what? I do dispute that. I really do. I know it's semi-automated. Everything's automatic in a semi-way. He looked on to me. It generally looked on to me, but oh well. Apparently the camera doesn't lie. Sadly, nothing else happened. It finished 2-0, and thankfully we're through to the last 32, where we are playing Congo, and we know the teams that went through: Congo, Sweden, Ghana, Ecuador, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Algeria, Paraguay, and Senegal are all through. I said the day that England beat Croatia on that little Saturday, I said that I was going to decide if Scotland were going to join us, and unfortunately, all the results that Scotland needed were exactly the opposite of the way it needed to go. Unfortunately for Scotland, it wasn't meant to be. Less of that. I'm not going to be harsh on them because, like I said, Scotland aren't exactly regulars. They had to do what they had to do against Haiti. It was the game against Morocco. It should have been a penalty for that foul on McTominay, but it wasn't meant to be. The Brazil game, I suppose everyone saw them kind of getting thwacked 3-0. But to be honest, if you look at Scotland and then you look at, say, what Cape Verde did and held Spain to an accountable 0-0, they held Uruguay to a 2-2, and, they drew Saudi Arabia and they made it through in second place. Maybe there is a lot of questions that need to be said of Scotland. If Cape Verde can do it, why on earth did Scotland not do it? I don't agree with Steve Clarke stepping down because, like I said, it's not like as if Scotland are regulars. Steve Clarke has done a magnificent job to get them through to the World Cup finals as it is. I think he should stay on, and I think the Scottish FA need to convince him to stay on. Uruguay were significantly disappointing. Their draw against Cape Verde is what actually knocked them out, and they've got no one else to blame but themselves. I'm also very disappointed in South Korea. South Korea and Turkey actually let themselves down humongously. I thought South Korea were onto something when they had that magnificent game against the Czech Republic, or Czechia, should I say, sorry. But after that, they fell to a clumsy loss against Mexico. I don't know what the keeper was doing, but the game against South Africa was even the worst. It's arguably the worst. They were the biggest jokers of this whole tournament, and you lost to them. And it's not as if it was like a smash and grab like Mexico did. South Africa actually genuinely deserved it. Some of their attacking play against South Korea was magnificent. You let you guys down. Iran, I feel genuinely sorry for. Never mind the political scandal and nonsense that they have to go through, in which they have to land in America on the day of the match, get interrogated for hours as per American security protocol, and then come in, play the game, and then fuck off again back to Mexico. I feel genuinely fucking sorry for them. For the teams they've had to play, you know, they drew all of their game. That remarkable game against Belgium, in which they drew 0-0, and then the game against Egypt, where I thought they got a last-minute winner. But unfortunately, they're out because of VAR, because they drew the wrong line. They drew the wrong semi-automated. This is why I'm questioning semi-automated VAR, because they got it wrong. They genuinely got it wrong. They said he was the last man off an Egyptian player. That wasn't the last man. He was significantly onside. That was cruelly chalked off. They got knocked out by an absolute nonsense of a decision. I'm sorry, but VAR and actual technology is the reason why Iran are out of this fucking World Cup, and it's all bloody corrupt. I'm sorry, I do genuinely feel sorry for them. I genuinely, for the shit that they've had to go through, I fucking feel so sorry for them. They should be in the knockouts. They should be in the knockouts. So that's unfortunate on Iran. But credit to the African nations. You know, I think 7 of the 8 are from Africa, aren't they? No, maybe I'm wrong. Congo, yep. Sweden, obviously not. Ghana, yep. Ecuador, obviously not. Bosnia, obviously not. Algeria, yes. Paraguay, obviously not. And Senegal, obviously, yes. Well, I think there's 8 out of 9 African teams that went through, either through the third place playoff or outright. And fair play to them. They're stepping up. They're stepping up. Sadly, one of our African brothers are out in South Africa. They lost to a last-minute winner to Canada. So congratulations to Canada. They're through to the last 16. England are going to be having their last 16 tie against Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, not Dr. Congo, as some people are coining them. And our route to the final is fucked. It's genuinely fucked. Because we then play the winners of Mexico or Ecuador. And normally I'll take any one of those lot on. But when you're playing Mexico in the Azteca, who have only lost twice in the past generation of since the Azteca was built. If it was any other bloody stadium, yeah. But the Azteca against Mexico, I'm not sure. I actually have a bad feeling we are going to lose our World Cup journey will end in the Azteca. I genuinely, again, I don't want to disrespect Congo. You know, it will be a tight affair. We know they're going to sit back as well, but, you know, no disrespect to them. I should see us beat Congo. I don't see it any other way. But you never know. You never know. You never discount the African teams. They've been magnificent in this World Cup. So you never know what Congo are capable of, especially what they did to Uzbekistan. Wissa was magnificent in that game. So let's see what we do against Congo on Wednesday, and then we either play Mexico or Ecuador in the Azteca. And like I said, I think our journey will end against Mexico in the last 16. But even if we bypass them, then in the quarterfinals, we have either Brazil, Japan, or Ivory Coast or Norway. I don't know who will win between Brazil and Japan. I hope it's Japan. And then you got Ivory Coast versus Norway. Who's going to win that game? That's going to be a bit more tougher than you actually think it is going to be. But for argument's sake, if it is going to be Brazil in the quarterfinals and we somehow bypass Brazil, we then end up either having Argentina versus Cape. How do Argentina get Cape fucking Verde, you lucky bastards? And then how is Switzerland and Algeria fucking last fucking 32 tie? Same with Canada and fucking South Africa. How is that a last 16? I mean last 32 tie? That should not be a knockout fixture, yeah. I'm having a pop at you, Tim Howard, yeah, as well. USA versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. That is a disgraceful of a last 32 tie. You should not be anywhere near that as a last 30. That should not be a last fucking 32 tie. That's absolutely disgustingly disgraceful. Man, I am hoping Bosnia do you over, man. It'll be so funny. After the way you are cussing out Curacao, saying, oh, nobody wants to watch these dickheads play in the... Well, you didn't say that. I know you didn't say that. But, you know, nobody wants to watch these lot play in the World Cup. Words to that effect. No. I hope you get your comeuppance against Bosnia. That should not be a last 82 tie. In the same way, Switzerland and Algeria, and then Colombia, Ghana. Oh God, there's so many last. Australia, Egypt is another disgraceful last. How is that a last 32 tie? How are these knockout fixtures? I don't know. But it's either going to be between Argentina, Cape Verde, Australia, Egypt, Colombia, Ghana, and Switzerland, Algeria. One of these lot is going to be our semi-final opponent. Should we have beaten, respectfully, Congo, Mexico, and Brazil? Yeah, it's a fucked up route to the final. Being very honest, I don't see England getting there. It would be nice to get to the quarterfinals or semi-finals. It would be an absolute dream come true, but I like I said, I think it will sadly end at the last 16 versus Mexico City. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, and you know, inshallah, hopefully I am wrong. But let's see. It's a little bit fucked right now. But let me know what you guys think will happen in the knockout rounds. I hope we have a good game against Congo. It sets us up nicely for the game against presumably Mexico. Again, let's not discount Ecuador. And then hopefully, to be fair, I'm not so confident we'll be playing Brazil, because Brazil, Japan, and Norway, Ivory Coast... I think Japan can give them a good game, and if Norway beat Ivory Coast, I think Norway could give Brazil a good game. But let's see. Let's see what God has decided. God save our gracious King. May God save our national team as well. Let's see what we're capable of. Goodbye, good night, God bless, and peace. And subscribe to my channel if you so wish.